How you going?
Doing well, thank you. Yeah, all is good.
Always good. Well,
Mm.
welcome to the Rockpit and to Australia. It's a pleasure to finally talk to you. Unfortunately, the last time you did a round of interviews, I'd lost my voice, so I couldn't actually make it. So it's nice
Ah,
to be
okay.
able to finally catch up with you.
Yeah,
Thank you for your time and welcome to Australia.
yeah, thank you. Pleasure is mine.
So there's lots to talk about. So let's get into it. For those that are unaware of Wardruna, give me a bit of a history of the band.
Well, it's a project that I started, um, yeah, in the early 2000s, um, dedicated to creating music where I use the oldest Nordic instruments and uh, instruments, language, and thematics is very much based on ancient Nordic animistic ideas and traditions. So it's about taking some of these old ideas, instruments, traditions, and create something new with it. Wardruna has never been about recreating music from any specific time periods. It's making music that is contemporary within a contemporary soundscape, but at the same time, we're not climbing into trees that doesn't have roots. So it's important to stand on solid ground, also in terms of the ethnomusicology, but also knowing as much as possible about the themes and traditions we're giving voice to. So yeah, so started in the early 2000s, but the first album was released in 2009, and yeah, since then, well, we're releasing our sixth album now in a matter of yeah, in a month or so. So it's been quite a journey since that. But in a nutshell, that's where we came from and what we're about.
So the name itself means guardian of secrets. Is that, you know, the more I dive into the band and the music and the videos, the bigger the understanding that I get of what you're all about. And it's really just, uh, it's more than music. It's storytelling. It's videos are very visual and complement what you are saying and recreating. The soundscape is, as you said, is really vast. When it came to telling these stories, how crucial was it that you went back and you looked at original instrumentation from the times?
Well, that's sort of at the heart of the idea. That's when I started having the vision of doing what became Wardruna. I was probably like 16, 17 years old and was playing different musical genres. So I guess this it's just something I could hear, I could picture it, I could see it almost, and the lack of there being any project like this, using relevant instrumentation and sounds and record in relevant spaces or in specific time periods, many different things. That has always laid at the heart of the concept of what became Valdruna. And as you say, it is definitely more than just music for the ears. It is um, um, aiming to give voice to things that run deeper and has very deep roots, at the same time very universal and timeless, because it's born out of the very ground we still walk on top of. It is and that's what you see. Go far enough back in time, you see just how universal many of these things are. Nature is what creates culture, so the mechanism is the same, whether it's in Australia or Northern Africa or in Scandinavia. It becomes dialects of the very same thing, and that's what you see also historically. That many of the instrument types, the rhythmical patterns, the tonalities, they are the same. It's almost like they're in our DNA because they're so ancient. But it's all about their connectiveness to nature, I think, and many of these instruments, they have a special quality to them. They have an ability to convey that timelessness, that connection to our surroundings, in my personal opinion, in a better way than many of the modern instruments do, for whatever reason, probably many reasons. Yeah.
I guess growing up in the Scandinavian countries, I mean, how strong is, I guess, education around the history of the Norse?
It's pretty shitty, to be honest. It's being taught to children in a way that makes it impossible to take serious, unfortunately. And I think many places on this planet teach it in a better way. And many people from outside of Norway know more about it than us Scandinavians. But there are many reasons for it, and there is a change. And of course, I'm making it a little bit black and white to get my point across. But despite what people think, that we are very much connected to our history, we aren't. Partly, I would say, why there is this gap is, of course, it's something that's very often been demonized and oversimplified and made into something very primitive by the victors in history, and of course that was the church, and they did what they tend to do wherever they get a foothold, and that is to tell their own story, and of course that is part of it. Another part is the fact that I think the problematic effect of the Nazi misuse of a lot of our symbols and parts of our history and culture, the misappropriation of it, made it very problematic for a long time to do anything with it. You see it in the decline of literature, speaking about it, poetry, art in any form, after the World War. You see it just disappears. So there are many reasons for it, I would say, but it's still there, and with this massive explosion of interest, worldwide interest for older Nordic history, it has also reached or has had a positive effect here in the Nordic countries as well, with a healthy interest for this part of our tradition.
I guess, I come from a European heritage. I'm Latvian, second generation, Australian. So I mean, I have a lot of I've done a lot of reading on the background to places like Latvia and understood the history there, and what the war did to that part of it. I guess what I'm trying to say in all of this is, from what I've discovered in your music, and it amplifies exactly what you just said. I now have this interest in, you know, Norse history, in the folklore, in the telling of the stories, because what you've managed to do, not only visually but musically, is, you know, open up this passageway, and the way that you tell the stories behind the songs, especially in a video sense, goes, I need to know more about that, and that has to be a really, really positive thing. So I thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Well, my pleasure.
So
I'm glad you.
Australia.
Yeah, I'm glad you see it that way, because that's also how I see it. Going back to the name Wardruna, referring to it as, you know, it has multiple meanings, because the word rune has multiple meanings. It can mean a secret, it can mean knowledge, it can refer to the runes themselves, it can refer to magical songs. There are many levels to it, and one of the things that I do find very fascinating about older runic poetry is how they teach you about the runes. They don't serve truths on a silver platter to you. They just throw out questions, and that's a very thought invigorating. You know, it at least for me, when I read things like that or see things like that, that actually leaves me with more questions than answers. I think that's a very powerful way of inspiring and teaching. You just light candles inside of people, instead of just bombarding them with truth, whatever that means. So yeah, and that is what fascinates me with these older, more esoteric ways of teaching. And that is definitely how I try to speak in our videos and in our music in general. That there is very much room for you within the songs and the pictures and the poems.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think too, you know, when I watched the first clip on YouTube that I did of you guys and I got the subtitles, it was like, hang on, this is a different element in the storytelling once it's translated into the English language. And you know, that becomes a really interesting angle to what you're doing. There's very much an emotion in what you convey musically and in the soundscapes, and you know, that is enough within itself. But you know, reading the lyrics and the way that you tell the story is incredible as well. Not knowing much about, you know, the Nordic language, has that language evolved over the years, and do you tend to sing in the more traditional language?
Yeah, of course. The Scandinavian or the Norwegian language has gone through massive changes, and perhaps most profoundly after the Black Plague, where we lost a lot of our connection to the Old Norse language, and there was a huge influence from Danish language. So I in what I do, I sort of play around with language. I use I combine sort of the way my grandfather or his father or mother would speak. So this archaic old dialect, together with Old Norse language, together with Proto Norse language, the language before Viking period, which is the oldest one we have written accords of. I don't know. I believe in the power of words and the power of poetry. Yeah, how it must have been in an oral society as opposed to our literal society. We almost can't imagine it, the power and impact of these things. And but you can feel it. You can feel it, and that's, you know, if the Proto-Scandinavian word for a thing feels better, when I try to sing it, I will choose that, for sure, or vice versa, you know. So I try to stay playful in this combination between the history of our language. But yeah, the core language I use is an archaic form of my own dialect.
Now, the other big news aside all of this is that you're actually coming to Australia and New Zealand for the first time.
Oh yeah,
January.
Yeah.
3 shows in Australia, 1 in New Zealand. What can we expect from a Wardruna show?
Well, you can expect a solemn space where you can connect to something that is bigger than yourself, whether it's the music itself or nature or whatever. It can be many different things, but I know a lot of people think our music is about Vikings and swords and shit like that, but it's really not. It's about nature and man's relation to nature, and personally, I think one of the reasons why people connect to our music in the first place is, or are drawn to it and drawn to similar cultural expressions, is that there is a void, because we are very much disconnected from our surroundings and our natural way of living, and I think our music can act as a bridge to connecting to those things. Yeah, a lot. I think we humans have I think there is a need, a quite like deep seated or deep rooted need to have these solemn spaces. And for people who don't go to the church or the mosque or wherever, or do rituals where you connect to something that is bigger than yourself in a solemn, sacred way, I think there is a big void for people who don't necessarily do that, and I guess in a way that's what we try to create, this neutral space where you can connect to it, whether it's the music or the ideas or nature, or that is something you decide yourself in a way. But it's not a rock and roll show. I don't speak between the songs. It is almost like a classical concert in that sense, where things just move from one to the other. Storytelling, and of course the performance is about communication. It's about being present, 100%, becoming one with the words you sing and the sounds you're part of, and that's what our focus is as well, and to draw people into that space, that moment. That is what it's all about. So not very not a short answer to it.
No.
But
obviously you've tried to keep it as traditional as you can with traditional instrumentation. Obviously, have you gone back and had to, I guess, recreate a lot of the instruments from those early Nordic times? that you do use, or have you been able to source them? Are they authentic instruments?
Yeah, no, it's of course it's replicas. The oldest ones are replications of historical findings. And when I started doing this like 25 years ago or so, then at that point there was it was very obscure. Not a lot of people knew about them or played them or built them anymore. So at, back then it was, yeah, in some cases there is a living tradition of the instrument, of course, and that changes it. Even though it's obscure, you can still get it. In some cases I had to either have it built for me or even build the instrument myself. But these days, or the last maybe 10 years, the interest around that part of our history has exploded. So it's easier to, they're more accessible. You can find them more easily. And of course, I have the people I normally buy my instruments of are yeah, I don't really have time to to build them anymore myself. So, and thankfully it's easier to source them now than it was when I started out.
And how much of a challenge was it learn to learn to play them in the way that they were intended to be played?
Well, I tried to, one of the things that I did was that I wanted to approach it like a child in a way, not having heard music ever played on an instrument, like really in the beginning. And yeah, in hopes of finding the instrument's own voice before applying my own, yeah, thoughts and ideas to it. So it's I would say that's an ongoing process to learn how they work and yeah, learn their potential and also study. We learn new things about them all the time as our knowledge about them increase. Gives us new perspectives. So I would say it's a very much an ongoing process, and I'm still a novice.
It's great, you know. It's nice to know that you have started on this unlimited potential. You know, you don't know
Yeah,
what's about to evolve for yourself. So as a band, that's got to be exciting as well.
yeah, and I think that's very whether it's whether it's my view on the world or life in general. I try to just be in the moment and be present in my life and be open to. I know the only thing I know is that I know quite little, and I think that's also in terms of the band. It's I think it's important not to chase. Not meaning that you shouldn't work hard, because that is of course at the heart of it. You have to work hard, but you also have to be happy where you are. Happiness and success is not something that's in front of you or behind you. It's exactly where you are. So that is very much our focus, to be present here and now, and to make where we are a good place to be. I think that's the most constructive way to move forward as well, to be content where you are, or happy where you are is perhaps a better word for it. And that we are incredibly grateful for to have the opportunities to do what we do, to travel, to perform our songs for so many people, and it's not something we take for granted. And yeah, something we're quite protective of.
I mean, here in Australia, I guess we feel pretty special because the first show of the tour is actually the eve of the release of the album. So,
Yeah,
that's quite remarkable that you've chosen us to celebrate the release of the album.
yeah,
The tracks that I've heard already that are out there on streaming services, I think I touched on it before, are very much a journey within themselves, and I just find myself getting sucked right into them, and that's such a fantastic thing. Music hasn't touched me in that way in a very, very long time, and certainly not on that level. So I'd like to thank you for what you've done, and I'd like to thank you for giving me a thirst for knowledge again on Nordic history.
yeah. Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
So it's really and even the visuals. I keep referring back to the clips because I think they are extremely well done, and they do, just take you back to, as you say, the earth and the roots and the atmosphere of what is, your Nordic country. You kind of feel the cold in some of the clips.
Yeah. Some of the clips were very cold. I can I can tell you that.
But it's just, it's. I feel as though I'm transported there, and for me, being of European descendancy, that's something that's very special to me. I mean, musically, it not only speaks to the ears, but it's the mind, the soul, and the spirit. So I'd really like to congratulate you on doing what you have done. I'm super excited to hear the whole album. Now, show wise, will obviously, this being album number 6, will we get a taste of everything that's led up to Birna?
Yeah, yeah, we will definitely um, uh, perform at least 2 of the new songs from Birna in the live show. And yeah, we just came back from a European tour now, where we also play a few of the songs that has been out already. And it's, for me, whether it's an album or it's um, standing in front of people singing our songs, it's 2 different things. You never know how a song is going to speak through you to the people in front of you in that setting. So it's something that is very exciting, I have to say, to take a song to the stage and see if or how it works when in front of an audience. And so far it's been really special to perform these songs, and also to put them in the setting of what we've done before. A concert is storytelling and having many layers, but also the story of Wardruna. So I think it's important to represent the whole journey in a balanced, good way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. We are almost out of time. I can't believe how quickly this has gone, but I'm certainly looking forward to seeing you guys out here and to experience this show. On behalf of the Rockpit and all of Australia, I'd like to wish you a safe and happy holiday season, and we can't wait to see you out here in January.
Well, thank you so much, and yeah, I wish you and all of your readers and listeners the very same thing. And yeah, I know a lot of people in Australia and New Zealand have been waiting for a long time, and it's something we've been also working on making happen for a long time. So to finally see it manifest and approach like it's doing now, it's really great. And yeah, we're gonna do our thing and give everything. So look forward to seeing you guys there.
Perfect. Thank you again so much for your time, Einar. We'll see you in January.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one.
Take care, my friend. Thank you.